Welcome. It's a 2017 road rehabilitation project. It's kind of our neighborhood meeting number one. It's our kickoff meeting to the project for the neighborhood. We're here tonight to provide some information to you guys about what we expect to see on a project, take some feedback in, and kind of introduce you to what our project process is. Start with some introductions. I'm Tony Kutsky. I work with the City of Woodbury in the engineering department. I'll be the project manager for this project. We have Doug Peterson in the back in the blue shirt. Give us a little wave, Doug. He's a project manager here at the City of Woodbury also. He will be working on this project at the city level also. Dave Hansen, give us a little wave, Dave. He's with Bolton and Mink. He's our consultant chosen to work on this project. Dave has about 30 plus years of experience working in the City of Woodbury, out in the field doing inspections and other various duties for the city. And then Jeff Toutant, also with Bolton and Mink. He's a senior inspector working on this year's 2016 project, and we'll also be working on our 2017 project as we move along here. So as an agenda for tonight, we did our introductions. We want to explain to you what is a roadway rehabilitation. Kind of a tongue twister for me here, so hopefully I can kick it out without making too many mistakes. We'll give you some background on why we're selecting these areas for the projects. Give you an anticipated scope. We have not fully scoped this project yet. We are working through your neighborhoods right now. You likely see some workers and vests going through your neighborhood looking at the sanitary sewer, storm sewer, the water main system, looking at the roads and the curbs, and maybe putting some paint marks out there near the curbs. That is part of our process to determine what we need to do on this project. Another big part of that process is to take input from you as residents. And I'll get into some of that a little bit more as we go. But we want input from you on issues you see in the neighborhoods with drainage, with the roads, and various other items that we can correct when we're in doing these projects. We'll talk a little bit about anticipated project costs. They do vary depending on the scope of the project, so we don't have numbers for you here tonight. As we do need to finish the scoping of the project, we come back to you at the end of September with sort of our preliminary scope of the project and some preliminary numbers on the costs, proposed assessments. That gets into a little bit of the funding and assessments. If you're not familiar with assessments, it is a fee to the homeowners that benefit from the project or are immediately adjacent within the project. And then we'll talk about our next steps as we work through the project process. So again, the meeting purpose tonight excuse me, is to provide property owners and residents with information about this proposed project, what the areas are, and what the projects generally entail when we talk about rehabilitation of the roads. We're going to take in feedback tonight. We'll have question and answers at the end. We'll take feedback on areas that you see as issues and any things you'd like to see included in these projects. Again, tonight, no decisions will be made as final decisions. We're going to take that input, go back as staff, review that, and come up with our final scope of the project to bring back and propose to you as residents at a future meeting. We have three distinct areas of the project. We're calling one area the West Residential Area. It's generally west of Radio Drive, south of the Ojibwe Park, and then south of Lake Road down to Bailey Road. Most of it lies east of the petroleum pipeline that runs through the area. A few areas are west of there. They're generally shown on the map above. If you received a notice for this project and you live in this area, you are considered a benefiting property at this point. So that's why you were included in the mailings for the project. Our residential area east is basically our Wedgwood Park area, south of Lake Road, east of Woodbury Drive, north of Bailey Road. And then we have a third area we're calling our Upper Afton Road area. That is Upper Afton Road from Century Avenue on the western city limits all the way east to our connection at Weir Drive. So what is a roadway rehabilitation? It is kind of we do routine maintenance on roads. It's crack filling, pothole patching, some of the seal coat surfacing and sealing that we do on roads, That's maintenance. That's done by city workers or city crews. A reconstruction is taking everything out and putting all new back in. A rehabilitation is somewhere in the middle. So it could include full depth pavement replacements throughout the project. We might remove all the pavement in some areas. It might include removing portions of the pavement, just the top half, and putting new portions down. That scope will yet to be determined. A lot of times spot curb repairs are done. Sometimes full curb replacements are done in certain areas. Utility work is usually done in the underground areas as needed. And again, we define that scope as we go. So the streets on this project generally serve residential neighborhoods. The one exception to that is Upper Afton Road. It is Collector Street. The developments were built between the 80s and around 2000 was the end of some developments in these areas. The total length of this project is about 17 miles of roadway. Damaged curb is currently being evaluated. You may have seen Jeff and some other staff members walking through the neighborhoods putting white paint marks down. That's for us to get a preliminary number of what curb looks like so that we can try to price out the project or get a scope on how much curb will cost to replace. With that, we do go through in the spring right before the construction starts in your neighborhood, and we do reevaluate it and mark it up at that time for the final decision on what gets replaced. The areas included in this project have a history of pothole repairs. Some thin overlays have been placed in a lot of areas, and we're starting to see a continuous maintenance trend out on these roads. It's now time that maintenance is no longer cost effective, and rehabilitation is the proper method to go in and get these streets back into a surface that we can continue to maintain into the future. So again, a significant amount of maintenance funds have been spent in all of these areas, and that's why they're included in these maps. So if a lot of people might think, you know, my road isn't riddled with potholes. Do we really need to do this project right now? And we go through the streets and do an evaluation, one with a consulting firm who rates it on a 0 to 100 scale, 100 being brand new street. And we do that, and then we do a drive-through of all the streets, basically on an annual basis with our public works staff, our engineering staff, and our consultants. And then we take all that information and determine when it's the best time to get in there and do repairs prior to them deteriorating to a point where we need to do a costly full reconstruction. Generally, full reconstructions, removing the entire roadway and putting a whole new roadway back can cost about 4 times the amount of a rehabilitation. And the idea there is to get in, do a rehabilitation, get the extended life out of the roadway prior to spending that 4 times the cost on a full reconstruction. So current conditions of some of the roads, you might see a lot of what you might describe as delamination of the pavement. If you're a pavement guru, this is called stripping. The top surface is being peeled off and rocks are coming out of the pavement. The pavement sections are made up of rocks and then asphalt oil. That's what makes it black. The asphalt acts as a glue, and the rocks in the pavement give it its structural support. As that starts to fail, we see these types of pavement surfaces, and it is time to do rehabilitation. It's very costly to do maintenance on these types of roads when they hit this point. So again, we don't have the final scope of this project, but it'll generally include some amount of curb repairs. We anticipate a mixture of partial depth, full depth, milling and removal of pavements, and then new pavement surfaces put back on. If you've seen some of the overlays placed through a lot of the neighborhoods in the past, some of the new pavement surfaces have been spotty and didn't reach the center line of the road, so they didn't go all the way across the road. That is not the intent of this project. Those were Band-Aids put together to try to get the roads to a point where we can come in and do this rehabilitation. In all of the areas of this project, you would see a new pavement surface all the way across the road when the project is completed. We do evaluate the city's sanitary sewer, the water main, and the storm sewer systems, and do appropriate rehabilitation on those as we go. We need to do those ahead of the road repair so that we don't have to dig up the roads and do patches throughout the life of this new pavement that we're putting down. And along with that, we do coordinate with the private utility companies. Those would include the Comcast, the Xcel Energy, and some of the other communication companies to determine if they have issues in the areas or if they want to upgrade any services that they have. And that allows us to coordinate those so that the utility companies aren't digging up our roads in the near future after these projects also. We do have some pond work that we do in these projects. You'll be hearing about that. We do run those as a separate project. They are run generally in the winter when the ground's frozen, as we get a lot less disturbance to the turf around them. And then also, as the ponds are frozen, we're able to bring our equipment in there without sinking down into the bottoms of the ponds to do that work. Generally, the pond work is outlet, inlet repairs. Those are the pipes that flow in and out of the storm sewer. And then also, we do sediment removal at that time. Those ponds are put in place to really add water quality before the water runs to the lakes. It is where our sediment collects and poor water quality items settle out, and we want to go in and remove those so that we can continue to maintain the storage capacity of those ponds and also continue to maintain the quality of the water leaving those ponds. Again, you'll hear more about those. If you do have a pond in your backyard or next to your property, you'll hear more about that project here as we get a couple months down the road. We are scoping that project out right now too, and that project will be run separate, but you will get information on that as we go. So the project generally does not include special traffic calming measures or private backyard drainage issues. Private backyard drainage issues are issues between homeowners, and they need to be taken care of between homeowners. We're happy to help facilitate those discussions, but the city does not go on the private property and correct drainage on these projects. Special traffic calming measures, certainly if we want to consider traffic calming or changes the roadways, adding sidewalks, trying to slow cars down on roadways that get higher volumes of traffic, we are happy to consider them. This is the time to consider them as we're going in to do these road projects. It does require a petition from the neighborhoods, and it does require 60% support up front to evaluate that. That petition process does not mean that you've signed off and said, I'm happy to move forward with it. It says that we will evaluate it, bring it back to the neighborhood, and determine whether or not the neighborhood still supports it after we've determined what would be best for those improvements and what kind of impact to the cost that those could have. If you have questions about that, I'll stay after the meeting here. I'd like to talk to anybody who does have concerns about traffic calming or the petition process for any improvements that would be not generally included in these projects. I can talk about a few items that some residents have talked to me about already as we go. So the project goal here, before and after photos in the area. The street ahead of time obviously has poor surface condition. We want to get the curbs flowing improve their drainage, get a new surface on the roadway. And you can't see in these pictures, but any utilities under the road also rehabilitated so that they'll at least last the life of this new roadway that we're putting down. There are a few steps of the process. Generally, we turn these projects into phases, and the contractor will pick out a couple miles worth and start and do those in phases as we go. They obviously can't go out and tear up all 17 miles all at once. That would be an absolute nightmare for all of you to have that done all at once. So we break it into phases. They generally start with some of the underground utility work. Then they come in and mill and remove the pavement as necessary. Work into replacing some of the damaged curb items. Then they come in, dump topsoil and restoration. We generally use seeding as our restoration for these projects. And then they pave the street. That is the final item that we do. We don't want that equipment going back into areas, driving on the new pavement and scuffing it up. So we do require the paving to be the last item to go through. After that, they'll have cleanup items. In general, this process takes about 6 weeks to get through each phase. So you'll have active construction directly in front of your house for about a 6-week period. Throughout the whole neighborhood, it will be all summer. So storm sewer, those are the grates that you see in the curb lines. We generally want to get those improved so that they do collect the water needed and the drainage gets to those. The upper left picture shows a poor condition storm sewer, likely water has a hard time getting to this. The bottom picture shows kind of the finished condition. The water's able to go down the gutter lines, get into that grate. You may see some work like is on the right there. The upper right-hand corner picture does indicate some underground storm sewer being fully replaced. If that was the curb line there, you can see the impact does go into yards. The city owns right away about 14 feet behind the curbs, and generally that area is dug up if needed for these underground repairs. So it can be fairly invasive into the lawns and the property there. So I'll take questions at the end. Thank you. Any curb being replaced, you can see on the bottom right, that can also have a disturbance to landscaping, irrigation systems, dog fences, and things like that you have in the public right-of-way. So damaged curb and gutter, it could be spot repairs like the upper right-hand photo and the bottom photo. You can see that does get into the turf. And also patches need to be placed in front of the road. The upper left-hand photo is a picture of all new curb going in. There's a little portion of a machine in there that is placing that curb. So we will have a variety of different methods for that curb replacement throughout the project. Pavement removal, this is generally done with very large equipment. It is noisy, and there is a lot of trucks in your neighborhood as this is going on. It's called a milling machine, and what it does is it has a giant drum with teeth on it. It chews up the pavement and puts it up into a belt, which loads it into trucks, and they haul it out. Generally, that pavement is reused and recycled for other construction activities on road projects. Again, this could be a variety of methods. On the right hand, you see an edge mill overlay. They're removing just the edge of the pavement so that the new pavement surface will match the concrete curbs. You might see them mill all the way across the pavement. Or on the bottom picture there, you might see a full pavement removal, reshaping of the gravel, and 2 new layers of pavement put down. So all of our residential roadways have 2 layers of pavement. In general, through these projects, if we can remove the top layer or the edges of the top layer and lay a new layer over the top, that is generally a cost-effective method for rehabilitation. In areas where the bottom layers are deteriorated enough that we can't do that, you'll see full replacement. Street paving also, a lot of trucks in the neighborhood. It smells like oil, and it's hot, and it's a pretty gross process. You'll see oil on the roads, and it is a busy time through the neighborhoods, but generally they can get through a phase in a few days on the paving there. So that disturbance generally lasts a few days directly in front of your home. Restoration, we do place topsoil back in. We do hydro-seeding as our method of reestablishing that turf and the grass there. We require the contractor to provide care for that grass until it establishes, approximately a 30 to 45 day period. And then we go back after that period and address any areas that come up with weeds or don't have thick enough turf to be acceptable. I can tell you that restoration never looks like a fully established lawn that's been there for 20 years. It does take time for those lawns to establish, and we require the contractor to get seed to grow back up, keep the erosion from that soil from happening, and then the care after that is the homeowner's responsibility. So completed construction, new road surface all the way across. The curb and gutter is drain well. Grass is green on the sides of the curb, and we want the neighborhood to be kind of in a rejuvenated look to it, as some of them are starting to have pavement problems that are not very sightly. So it's too early right now to provide you estimated numbers on what this product's going to cost. We can tell you from past couple years projects, if the scope is similar to that, this is probably a project in the $10 to $12 million range for the entire project. And then we can tell you that if assessments are similar, single family homes are probably going to be over $3,000 per home. Depending on that scope, they could be more, they could be less. With townhomes, they generally have a lower rate as they're higher density, and with the city's assessment policy, they tend to be a little bit lower than that, probably in the $2,000 range. Now again, those numbers are not final. They are historical numbers. We do recalculate and provide an estimate of the project cost and those assessments around the end of September here, so about a month out. From the feedback from this meeting, we'll finalize our scope of the project, and we'll be able to take that forward to provide those estimates to you. The estimated assessments are refined 3 times throughout the project. We'll provide one at our initial scoping prior to doing a preliminary report for the project. That is the initial number that we use to give you guys a heads up as to what you need to save and what you can expect. If the City Council wishes to move forward and we move into plans and specifications for the project, we can really refine the scope, the limits of the project, and come up with a better estimate of those. That's generally provided around November. And then if the council wishes to move forward and bid the project, once we get actual contractor construction costs, we can refine that number and provide the final assessment. That's in March, and that's when the assessment hearing would be held. That's when the city, if they choose to move forward with the project and the assessment roll, they would finalize those assessment amounts. So assessments are based on a state statute, chapter 429. The assessments cannot exceed the benefited amount to the properties. The benefit is determined by an independent benefit appraiser. It is an opinion of that amount. The reason that the statute exists is so that we don't charge you outrageous amounts for these projects and amount of money that you couldn't recoup in properties. And again, a lot of people argue that if a roadway is redone, that you don't see any benefit on your property, but certainly it's been proven through the courts and also through these projects and the benefit appraisals that they do receive benefit, and that's why you receive a notice for this project, as you are considered a benefiting property. So the city does do sample appraisals. We take a selection of properties throughout the project. We send those properties out to an independent appraiser. And with that, they look at the scope of the project once we have that finalized, and they determine the benefit amount of properties throughout there. And once we finalize our assessments, we make sure that our amount is lower than that. So assessments can be paid in a couple different ways. If in March we hold an assessment hearing for the project and it gives you a dollar amount, you can pay after that assessment hearing for 30 days. That is a interest-free upfront payment. It needs to either be paid in full or a partial payment, at least 20%. Any unpaid amount after those 30 days will be collected in the city finance department and certified to the Washington County. What they do there is they collect it through the property taxes on the property over a 15-year period. That can be paid off at any time in full after that point through the Washington County Property Tax Collection Office. With that, it is basically like a loan. There is an interest rate. The past few years it's been around 3%. That rate is based on our bond rating for the project, because again, any unpaid assessments on a project, the city has to pay that contractor up front for that work he's doing. We can't pay him over 15 years, so we do incur an interest rate for the bonding that we take out to finance these projects, and that interest rate is then passed along to residents. There is a special assessment deferral program for seniors and disabled people. That is something that we can provide more information on a case-by-case basis. After the meeting, if you have any questions on that, we're happy to provide information on that. The city finance department handles those, and they have all the details on exactly how that works. So proposed schedule for the project. Here tonight, we're starting neighborhood meeting number 1. We'll come back to you in September, about a month from now, near the end of September. We will be providing a neighborhood meeting number 2 to really give you more information about what we think the scope will be on the project, what we think project costs will look like. And just to let everyone know here, we are videotaping this. It will be available on the city's website, and we will have all the slides available on there too in a PDF form and then also through the YouTube video. So you don't have to feverishly write down notes real quickly right now. But by October, we hope to have the preliminary report finished and hold a public hearing. So the public hearing, there's a couple different types of meetings we're going to be notifying you on over the next few months. Neighborhood meetings are times for you to get information, ask questions, provide feedback. Public hearings are your opportunity to speak directly to the city council on your support or opposition of projects. And it is, the public hearings are held at the city council meetings in the city council chambers as part of the council meetings. And then we also have open houses, and those are going to be held as a stop in throughout the time and to talk one-on-one with staff, get your concerns addressed, get your questions answered, look at plans. If we have plans, we'll break out the plans for the projects and things like that. So it's really a one-on-one opportunity for you to get questions answered. So into October, when we finish the preliminary report, again, that's your estimated project cost, your anticipated project scope. We hold the public improvement hearing. That is the time where the city council looks at the projected cost of the project, the projected assessments, the projected scope of the project. They decide whether or not they want to move forward or if they want to stop the project at that point. In December, if the council moves forward from the public improvement hearing, we'll bring plans and specifications back to the city council. If they wish to go out for bids, we generally open bids in January of 2017. By March, we'll hold a neighborhood meeting with you to talk about construction, or actually that'll be the assessment hearing. We'll give you information about your final assessments and what's going to happen at the assessment hearing so that anyone who wishes to oppose or support the assessments has the information they need to go to the public hearing for that. The assessment hearing is held likely in March of 2017 when the city council determines whether or not they're going to award the contract to a construction contractor. In April, we'd hold a neighborhood meeting prior to the start of construction. That is our opportunity to talk directly with you about what you're going to see happen, what is the contractor's schedule. We allow the contractor to create his own schedule with some limitations throughout the projects. We then review and approve those. So we bring those schedules to you. We won't know what day they're working on your street until we hold that meeting. And I will tell you that with construction, weather, unknowns out there, the construction schedule changes, and it changes quite often. So we'll talk about our communication methods here coming up for how you can stay in touch with that schedule and what's going on in the project. Again, the construction will take the entire summer to get through the whole project area, all of the areas proposed for construction. It would start as soon as the weather allows in May, and it would end around October of 2017. So our next steps, we are going to report any feedback that we get here to the city council. Is there support? Is there opposition? Are there areas we need to look at further from this meeting and from everybody who has had an opportunity to fill out a questionnaire? We have staff working through these to summarize those, review them, mark down areas on plans, and maps for areas we need to go look at. That's part of what the staff is doing as they run out through your neighborhoods. We are working on preparing the information that we need to provide a preliminary report, cost estimates, assessments, the scope of the project, and we'll be looking to set a public improvement hearing date. We have various methods for communication throughout the project. You'll see a lot of mailings from us up front here for all of our neighborhood meetings, open houses, and our public improvement hearings. You will get a mailed letter, so keep an eye on your mail. If you get any envelopes from the city, it could be related to this project, and they could be meetings that we want you to attend for that. If you're not able to attend meetings, we do try to record meetings as we can and put that information on the city website. You can call us at any time to get questions answered on that. Is anyone here signed up for the InTouch email system for updates on construction, the park and rec staff, items? We have a lot of different ways that we send emails out through that InTouch system. We will be adding, we don't have it up on the website right now, but we will be adding a 2017 road rehab project. It is on there now? Okay, excellent. They did get it up then. Okay, so in order to opt in to receive those messages, you do have to sign into your InTouch system, and you do have to opt in to receive that messages for the 2017 road rehab. If you do not do that, you don't automatically get added to a list. It is an opt-in option. I do encourage everyone to do that. It sends you reminders about these meetings. It also, once we get into construction, it is our main method to give you schedule updates on a weekly basis. If you do not sign up, you'll often find that you're unsure as to what's going on in the project and what's happening around, and we'll encourage you to get signed up on that. So, The project hotline, once construction gets started, we will provide a phone number for you to call. It is our field staff phone number. Dave and Jeff there are often out in the field. A lot of the city staff manages the project from a high level. We're not out watching the contractor work in each spot every day. We can't answer questions like, why did the contractor come do this in front of my house? We generally have to call that staff, so we provide that number for you to directly contact that staff. The hotline is used then for the hotline staff to come out, meet with you in person, right out in the field as things are going on, and explain what's going on, answer your questions, and review any questions that you have. The hotline is very useful to get immediate answers on projects. As calling into the city hall, we have to go through a few channels to go out in the field, look at things. This is a much faster way for us to get you answers. Door hanger notices. We generally will hang a notice on your front door to try to give you a heads up for anything big that's coming up that's going to impact you. Generally, it's the start of our curb work in the projects. When we do curb work, it can be somewhat disruptive to your access to your home. If we do need to replace curb across your driveway, that can certainly cause a period of time, about 5 to 7 days, where you are unable to get in and out of your driveway. You may have to park in the road in front of your house. And we do work with people who have any needs to continue to provide access. We have ways to get you in and out of your driveways as needed. So those door hanger notices give you the contact info once we get started on those parts of the process. So Doug, Dave, or Jeff, did I forget anything as we go here?
You did a pretty good job.
All right. At this point, I'm sure there's a lot of questions, a lot of wondering what's going to happen out there. I'm going to open this up to questions in a group here if you want to stay afterwards too. We certainly will answer questions one-on-one with the staff that's around.